What up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Barbell Brigade Talk Show. We got Nick. We also got Eugene. Eugene came all the way from Australia, and I know you've been training for a super long time. Since you've been training for such a long time, or how long have you been training for?
So I'm 30 now. I started when I was like 14, 13. Yeah.
Wow, like 16, 17 years?
Yeah.
What are some of the, like looking back, if you were to coach yourself, if you go on a time machine, what were some things you would have done differently? Like what were some things you were doing right at 13, 14, and some of the things you're doing really wrong?
I was doing nothing right at 13, 14.
Not even 1%?
Look, I did a push-up, and that's probably a good thing to do every once in a while, like push the world away from you or something like that. I look back at what I was doing when I was 18, 19, 20. So training for several reasons, I think, that was probably fucking dumb for the most part.
What are some of the things?
A lot of it was just training so much. Just trying to I was training twice a day, 3 times a day, as much as I could. And just throwing everything at my body with intensity and frequency. And I didn't even know what those things were as like technical terms. I was just like, I got to train more. I got to just lift more weight and do more and more. And then I didn't really respect the whole recovery thing. Didn't respect deloading. Not that again, like as a beginner or even beginner intermediate, maybe you can get away with not doing as much deloading, but I was just like, I'm just gonna push hard all the time.
Did you just think deload was for pussies?
I didn't even know what a deload was. I'm just gonna keep training.
So yes.
Yeah, so absolutely correct.
Deloading's for pussies.
Yeah.
That's the next barbell shirt.
Write that down. But yeah, a lot of it was just pure overtraining and just doing way too much based on the goals. Whereas if I look at it now, even as a complete beginner, I say, look, your goal is to build muscle or to get stronger or whatever the goal may be. How much do you really need to do to stimulate the response versus how much are you actually doing? Like I didn't understand the whole thing of, we're trying to stimulate something and then we have to recover. The whole stimulus adaptation cycle, I didn't understand that. I was just like, I just gotta train more to be bigger. I go do what that guy does to look like him or whatever. It was very much reactive and very much just doing as much as I could and obsessive to a point. Whereas now it's a lot more relaxed. Like obviously my goals are a little bit different now than they were, even 5 or 6 years ago. But the approach is a lot more methodical, where it's about saying, okay, if I did want to put on as much muscle as I could, I need to look at it intelligently and say, okay, the goal is stimulus. The goal is not a pump. The goal is not get tired.
The goal's not a pump?
The goal is the pump.
I take that
Sometimes.
back. Sorry.
When is the goal?
I did misspeak there. That was very incorrect of me. I was like, really, the goal isn't even to feel good per se. Like some people are like, I go to the gym because it's my therapy. The goal is not therapy. The goal is not to make you feel better. The goal when you train in the gym is to stimulate the response.
So what's your marker of whether or not something is working or
stimulating?
Yeah, that's really tough. And that's where we need to go. Like we've got to play this balancing act of experience and like anecdotal, what you feel and what you notice. And also like what does the science really say counts as like stimulation for the muscle? Because you can do 100 sets in a workout, which we know from the research is well overkill, but also by the research, there seems to be some kind of linear relationship between the more volume you do, the more gains you'll make. Whether it's strength, muscle building, performance, speed, whatever, the more you do, the better you're gonna get at it. That makes perfect sense. But then we've got to say, well, okay, what counts as a set? If you did 100 sub-maximal sets of me like lifting up this can, is that really gonna, that's one set there, is that gonna cause growth? We know probably not. We know that though from the literature, and we need to refer to that because for all intents and purposes, like why does me moving my arm from A to B like this, which you would call a lateral raise motion, why does this not stimulate gains? And then why does me holding a weight stimulate gains? And then what about the gray area between that? Whether that was like a 5 rep max or a 10 rep max or a 50 rep max, still performing the exact same motion with the weight in hand, one might be better and more appropriate than the other. And we have to go to the research towards, okay, what really goes in what's happening inside the body on a physiological level that makes you grow muscle. So we need to learn some of the nerdy stuff around that to then be able to more confidently say, as long as you take a set close-ish to failure with a challenging-ish load and you're staying probably below 30-ish reps, you're probably going to stimulate muscle building specifically from that. And now we have a quantifier. So now I say to myself, okay, how do I know that I've made gains? Did I do an appropriate amount of sets in that workout that was close-ish to failure? And did I progress that from the last few workouts or the last few weeks? And that's the best thing we're going to be able to really appropriate. Apart from
so it's not really like a moment type of thing. It's more of like you get your assessment from like a range of time.
It's an aggregate over time, it's an average over time, and then you've got to then deduce from that. And that's why it's so tricky, because not many people are really pushing that. Like, some people definitely are. A lot of the evidence-based, or all the evidence-based crowd really is pushing that. But a lot of what you see on social media is, hey, do this for a big fucking pump. Do this to blow up your biceps. Do this and you're gonna feel the burn, you know, get that sensation.
I'm not gonna write that anymore.
Turbo captions.
Do this to grow your biceps by 2 inches. And it is just salesy stuff. It is marketing, it's cheesy, and it really takes away from what are we really chasing again? We're not chasing fatigue, we're not chasing a burn, we're not chasing like any sensation. We're really chasing a stimulus, or we're chasing a response that is in some ways very scientific, and it is something you can't get in that moment to be able to say, yeah, that was a good set. Like, I don't really know. I don't know if my workout's really working for me until literally 3 or 4 workouts in, maybe, or even 3 or 4 months in, depending on.
How do you know then from like you know, there's like a billion bicep exercises. How do you know which one is the one for you, if not for the feeling of like, oh, this one I could contract like way more versus, oh, this one I don't really feel it at all?
Yeah, so that's where it becomes a balancing act of understanding some muscle physiology, some biomechanics, and also like how does muscle building occur. So like, I know for sure, if everybody was to like flex their arm here by their side, you'll feel your bicep. When you put your arm up overhead here, you're gonna feel it more. And that's due to, on a very nerdy level, what's happening in the sarcomere within the tissue and how it's approaching a very short position, and how these actin myosin things, they can't do their magic as well in that position. That's why we have the sensation. And that's a very nerdy conversation.
Yeah.
So
you're not gonna get any views for that.
No, not at all. That's why you don't talk about it. But that's why, like, at that point, you need to eventually graduate into that level, saying, okay, I need to actually learn. I need to actually go into the nerdy shit and eventually start understanding it. And hopefully by that point, someone's motivated enough to actually want to dig into it and actually understand it better. I'm like, oh, okay, so here's how to sift through all the noise of 10 bajillion different biceps exercises to work out what the best 5 really might be. And they may be the only 5 you ever do for the rest of your life, because based on physiology, based on biomechanics.
And there's 5 for you, right? It's not just in general.
There will be 5 general things that work for most people, and then there'll be shades of that. Like those 5 exercises, there'll be 50 million others that are very similar to them as well. And as long as you're hitting those 5 planes or those 5 positions or whatever, that's going to be ticking the box. And again, but ultimately it is, yeah, for you, and it may be a bit different for me, maybe a bit different for you, based on sciencey things, but also based on, you know, I don't like this exercise, preference. That's going to play into it as well.
So now what does your like workouts look like? If you were doing 2 times a day, maybe every day, like how often do you train now?
Yeah, like right now I'm barely training because of all the travel I'm doing, but usually I might train 3 or 4 days a week, and I don't have a specific goal saying I want to get jacked as possible. I still want to build muscle and get stronger. So for me, I'm making sure I'm covering all of my muscle groups in a week, so they're all receiving some kind of external stimulus on them, so they'll just maybe grow and get stronger. And that could be more from a health perspective than actually like I'm going to make a lot of jacked gains. But I make sure I push those exercises and those sets close to failure, and I manage to progress that. It's very basic and boring on paper and doesn't look like much, but that fits for me. And if I was to then shift gears, like, okay, I want to now push as much as I can to be a powerlifter or to be a bodybuilder again or whatever it is, then I'll take a bit more specific and say, okay, for powerlifting, maybe I need to focus more on peaking and doing certain percentages of 1 rep max. If I was bodybuilding, maybe I need to do a few more sets, a few more exercises to accumulate more volume. And that will be all that changes. It'd be a bit more nuanced on the load for powerlifting, a bit more nuanced on the volume and the sets for bodybuilding, but that's how it would change, which is honestly not that much. Right now I'm kind of coasting in the middle and doing what I enjoy, and then adding in what fits with my lifestyle, and also just what I find fun. Like, I do a lot of calisthenics now because I find it's fun. It's something different for me. That's it.
How do you do calisthenics after your like barbell dumbbell stuff?
Depends what I'm doing. It might be in replacement of. So instead of say doing a dumbbell press or a barbell press, I might do gymnastic ring dips, or I might do gymnastic ring flies. You know, hitting the same movement pattern.
That's probably how you tear your pec.
Yeah, probably, yeah. It's going to be horrible for powerlifting goals. So then, of course, if I was powerlifting, I'd then change it up. But for my goal, I'm hitting the muscle, taking it through a range of motion under load. It's going to get stronger over time. Less specific at powerlifting, but I don't care about that. And that's it. And then some days I might just start with calisthenic stuff. Like if I'm doing skill work, like handstand work, then I'll do that at the start when I'm fresh.
Oh damn, you do that stuff too?
Yeah.
How long can you hold a handstand?
No, I can't. I've done like 10-second freestanding. That was pretty cool.
That's pretty good.
That was pretty good.
That's really good.
That was cool.
10 seconds is a long time.
I can't do that now. I can't. But that was like a one-off. I got it on camera. I'm done. Retired now.
You ever do like the handstand push-ups where you go like this and your feet go over?
Yeah, no, I can't do that. Yeah, my overhead pressing strength is surprisingly weak. Yeah, well, it is weak. Not even surprisingly. Just, no. You look like shit. I expect you to be weak. Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people, they like to learn, and you can learn a lot from people's journeys. So it's cool to like hear like a lot of people make the same mistakes, overtrain, and then as you learn, you get more scientific and you listen to the literature, and then you incorporate it, become better. Yeah. Where can they find you if they want to learn more about you and all the stuff that you put out?
Yeah, if you search my name, you'll find me on YouTube. You'll also find me on Instagram as well. So check those out.
See you guys next time.